Tainy, Jungkook's voice was softer now, tinged with something fragile uncertainty, curiosity, maybe even disappointment. It pulled at Tae's chest like a wire tightening, and in an instant, he was on edge. No, babe, I can explain. Tae stood abruptly, hands slightly raised as if bracing for impact. Jungkook leaned back, arms crossing, his stance shifting from confusion to quiet challenge. Then please, he murmured, do. Tae swallowed, heat rising to his face, rubbing the back of his neck. It's a bit embarrassing, Rue. Jungkook held his gaze, though his eyes urged him forward. Tae hesitated, every muscle warning him to choose his words carefully. He exhaled, deciding to be honest at least about most of it. Okay, listen, I was at the casino, then I left. A flicker of awareness crossed his mind. Don't mention Sierra, not now. I drove back here, and when I got home, Tae paused, watching Jungkook carefully. You were asleep. Jungkook's gaze didn't shift, though his brows furrowed just slightly. Tae cleared his throat, pushing forward. I thought about how much I wanted you, but you'd asked for space earlier. You were upset about your father and you didn't tell me what exactly it is about Rue, so I didn't want to force myself on you. Jungkook blinked, a reaction finally. So, I touched myself instead. The words fell fast, rushed in a single breath, leaving Tae's heart hammering in his chest. Jungkook stood frozen for a second, caught between amusement and something else entirely. Then he exhaled slowly, shaking his head. Wow, Tainy. A smirk stretched across his lips. That's quite the confession coming from you. Tae groaned, half mortified, half relieved, not exactly the reaction I was hoping for. Jungkook hummed, pretending to consider something deeply before slowly slipping off the bed. Tae blinked. Wait, where are you going? Rue, no response. Confused, Tae followed, trailing behind him, calling out with more urgency. Rue, come on now, forgive me. Jungkook moved to the kitchen, grabbing a glass, taking slow, purposeful sips of water, completely ignoring him. Tae exhaled sharply, closing the distance, pressing himself against Jungkook's back in a soft back hug, arms tightening around his waist. His lips brushed along Jungkook's shoulder, breath warm against his skin. Jungkook remained silent, feeling the warmth of Tae's body against his back. Tae nuzzled his face against Jungkook's shoulder, whispering, just a few minutes, I can take care of you. Jungkook felt a rush of heat at Tae's words, his body responding involuntarily. So, you just couldn't wait for me, huh? His voice was laced with mock disappointment. You had to take matters into your own hands? Tae groaned, his cheeks instantly flushing. I was needy. You were asleep. You told me to leave you alone earlier. What was I supposed to do, Rue? Jungkook narrowed his eyes. Oh, I don't know. Maybe wait for me? Tae huffed, dramatically throwing up his hands. It's not a big deal, Rue. It's fine. Jungkook scoffed, shaking his head. Fine? You mean to say you didn't think I'd wake up to find my boyfriend sneaking off to jerk hims? He exhaled sharply, pointedly. Tae scrambled to defend himself. Maybe I thought you'd be too busy dreaming about me to notice. Jungkook arched a brow, unimpressed. Tae bit his lip, gaze flickering away, trying to deflect the conversation entirely. You know what? Tae blinked. What? Jungkook shook his head, feigning disappointment. I think I need to teach you a lesson. Tae froze. A lesson? Jungkook exhaled, dramatic. Clearly, I need to make sure you learn not to do this again. Rue, what are you doing? You're about to find out. Then he walked toward the dining area. Tae followed immediately, eyes narrowing, sensing something brewing. Rue, he tried again. But Jungkook disappeared briefly, returning moments later with something in his hand. A rope. Tae froze, watching him approach. Jungkook grabbed Tae's wrist, pushing him down onto the chair, securing the knot tightly before stepping back. Tae blinked, amazed, slightly amused. What is this now? He murmured. Let's see how much you can handle. Just so you know, Rue is going to punish you, Hyunji, Jungkook said, a teasing glint in his eyes. Tae's breath hitched at the words. He loved it whenever Jungkook called him daddy or Hyunji, Those kinks hit differently, igniting something deep within him. Rue, Tae called softly, a hint of urgency in his voice, but Jungkook stepped back, looking down at his own arousal with a smirk dancing on his lips. I can help you with that, Tae offered, trying to regain some control. But Jungkook took a slow step back, then another, and another, each inch away a calculated tease. Tae groaned, slumping slightly. Damn, Rue, you're cruel. Jungkook hummed, completely unbothered, crossing his arms. You should have thought about that. Tae sat in the chair, properly tied up, grumbling to himself. This is ridiculous. You were ridiculous first. Jungkook leaned against the wall, completely unbothered, stretching casually on full display. Tae felt his life flash before his eyes. This is cruel, Rue, cruel. Jungkook clicked his tongue. Wouldn't have been necessary if you just waited for me. Tae groaned dramatically. I was desperate. Jungkook arched a brow, turning just slightly, letting his oversized shirt slip lower on his shoulder. Never mind, Taehyung Nathaniel. I know what to do, and you will sit and watch. Tae's eyebrows shot up in surprise. What, Rue? No, don't. But Jungkook was already pulling his pants down, revealing himself fully. Tae licked his lips, feeling himself growing more aroused at the sight. Wow, that was quick, Daddy, Jungkook teased, a playful smirk on his face. Looks like you weren't satisfied with your own hands. Tae smiled sheepishly, a mix of embarrassment and excitement flooding his cheeks. Babe, I told you, it's just. Jungkook shushed him, his tone low and commanding. Now watch me touch myself, alright? Rue, Tae protested, stomping his feet in frustration. While I'm here, really? Jungkook glided his hand over himself, his gaze lifting to meet Tae's, a smirk playing on his lips. Watch what you're saying. Okay, Tae conceded, feeling a rush of heat, but you were sleeping, and you told me to give you space. So you'll touch yourself while keeping me right here, Jungkook challenged, his voice dripping with confidence. You know how that feels. Well, now you will know. Baby, let me. Tae started, but Jungkook shook his head, a mischievous glint in his eyes. Nope, he said, licking his fingers before gliding his hand over himself again. Tae huffed sharply, shifting in place. You are insufferable, and you adore me. Tae whined. Rue, please untie me. No, Rue, you brought this on yourself, Tae. Tae sighed aggressively, slumping against the chair. Fine, punish me, but at least talk to me afterward, okay? Jungkook hummed. We'll see. The mischievous smile, Jungkook began peeling off his clothes one by one, each piece falling to the floor until he stood completely naked before Tae. Tae's breath hitched, and he instinctively pulled against the knot binding him to the chair. Look at me, Tae, Jungkook commanded, his voice low and sultry. This is your punishment. You're going to watch me. He wrapped his fingers around himself, beginning to pleasure himself slowly. Tae's heart raced as he gulped, the sight before him both thrilling and tortuous. Please, let me go, he begged, his voice shaky with desire. No way, you'll just have to enjoy the show, Jungkook replied, his gaze locked onto Tae's wide eyes as he quickened his pace. Tae's toes curled, the tension building within him as he watched Jungkook gasping for air, letting out a low moan, the sound sending shivers down Tae's spine as he shot his release out. Tae sat there, captivated as Jungkook leaned back against the wall, breathing heavily. Did you enjoy the show? Jungkook asked, a satisfied grin on his face. At least I let you witness it. Tae threw his head back, feeling his own hardness left untouched, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. That's the punishment now, he groaned in annoyance. Jungkook laughed, clearly enjoying the effect. You wanted to play, didn't you? Once Jungkook finished, he wiped himself clean and pulled on a shirt, then walked over to untie Tae. Now, you're free, Jungkook said, a smirk playing on his lips as he headed back to the bedroom without another word. Tae leaned back in the chair for a moment, trying to regain control over his racing heart. He quickly sprang up and rushed after Jungkook. Rue, I'm punished now. Jungkook turned abruptly, cutting Tae off with a calm but firm voice. Rue isn't in the mood to patch up. Tae blinked, caught off guard. What? Jungkook huffed, swaying toward the bed with a dramatic elegance, arms crossing as he continued. I'm still angry. Tae let out a soft chuckle, shaking his head. Hold on, Rue, are you serious? Jungkook ignored him, barely sparing him a glance as he effortlessly discarded his pants, climbing onto the bed dressed in nothing but his oversized shirt. Tae gawked, watching as Jungkook nonchalantly pulled the blanket over himself. You act like a baby now, Tae teased, amused. Come on, my babe, Tae teased, leaning in closer. You punished Tae, now forgive me. He dared to reach out to touch Jungkook's thigh, but Jungkook yanked his hand away, suppressing a laugh. Sleep, Jungkook said, turning his back to Tae, trying to maintain his facade. Tae took a moment to admire Jungkook's toned body, sighing softly before settling back on his side of the bed. Can I, Rue? He whispered, hoping for a response. No, Jungkook replied. Tae sighed in defeat, shaking his head. So, that's another punishment now, you lying before me bottomless? Jungkook turned to his side, back facing Tae, completely uninterested in engaging. Tae chuckled under his breath. The more he unraveled Jungkook, the more layers his ruse seemed to have. A challenge, a mystery, a master of silent retaliation. Tae exhaled, tossing his own shirt aside before climbing onto the bed. Slowly, he shifted closer, but the second his body neared Jungkook's warmth, Jungkook shot up, scooting away abruptly. Tae, don't cross this line. Tae blinked, looking at the pillow now conveniently placed between them. His eyes narrowed slightly. Oh, you're serious about this silent treatment? Jungkook remained stone-faced, but Tae didn't miss the tiny smirk creeping at the corner of his lips. Tae sighed dramatically, flopping onto his back. He bit his lower lip, checking out Jungkook's silhouette beneath the blanket, the curve of his legs, the slope of his shoulders, the way he curled up just enough to be untouchable. And then Tae moved. Slowly, subtly, he wrapped an arm around Jungkook, barely grazing his waist, testing the waters. No protest. So Tae pressed closer, molding his body against Jungkook's. Jungkook smirked quietly, holding back his amusement. Tae caught it, sensing the flicker of mischief in the silence. So he pulled away deliberately, teasing, only to feel a firm grip pulling him back instantly. Tae smiled, nuzzling against Jungkook's nape, breathing in the familiar scent of home. Tae stood by the kitchen counter, arms crossed, watching Jungkook lounge on the couch, phone in hand, legs lazily stretched out. The TV flickered with some random show Jungkook wasn't really watching, just background noise as he continued expertly ignoring Tae. And Tae, it was driving him insane. Rue, Tae called, voice sweet, coaxing. No response, just a lazy swipe on Jungkook's phone screen. Tae narrowed his eyes, tilting his head slightly. Baby, you want coffee? Still nothing, not even a glance. Tae scoffed, muttering under his breath, unbelievable. Then he straightened, eyes glinting with mischief. With slow steps, he casually walked past Jungkook, purposely brushing their shoulders together just enough to be felt. Jungkook shifted. For a fleeting second, Tae caught the tiny twitch of his lips, holding back a smile. Tae smirked, shaking his head. Oh, so this is how it's gonna be. He let out a low chuckle. Tell me, Rue, am I the first person lucky enough to get your silent treatment in the most romantic way? If so, I might just enjoy it. Bring it, bloke. Jungkook bit the inside of his cheek, fighting back a grin but remained silent, scrolling through his phone. Tae exhaled, throwing up his hands dramatically. Fine, you win. He moved to the dining table, flipping open his laptop, fingers tapping against the keyboard. Jungkook stayed sprawled on the couch, phone in hand, scrolling aimlessly. The air between them hummed with playful defiance, Jungkook's satisfaction in torturing Tae, and Tae's growing desperation to crack him. Then Tae's phone rang. Jungkook's jaw twitched instantly. Tae caught it, smirk growing. He picked up, voice casual. Yeah? Jungkook hated it. Whoever it was always spoiling the moment. He sank deeper into the couch, scrolling aggressively, pretending not to care. He barely glanced up, hearing Tae answer in his usual composed tone. His fingers continued scrolling through his messages, his mind elsewhere, until the news broadcast shifted. Breaking news! Jeon Automobile's new CEO announced. Jungkook's eyes flickered toward the screen. The headline alone struck him cold, but when his father's face appeared sharp-suited, composed, unshaken, it hit harder. And beside him stood Minji, his breath stilled. Minji, his friend, the one he had trusted, guided, helped navigate the very role she now held in his company. The one who hadn't answered his calls for 2 days. The one who had kept this from him. The screen flashed again, his father speaking at the press conference. Jungkook's grip tightened around his phone as reporters threw out questions, one after another, until someone asked the one question that mattered most. And what about your son, Mr. Jeon? Was he considered for the role? Jungkook held his breath. His father skipped the question. Like he didn't exist. Like he wasn't even an option. Like the title, the empire, his name now belonged to her. His pulse roared in his ears, his fingers trembling as he dialed. Taehyung, finishing his call, caught the movement, his gaze shifting from the screen to Jungkook, his stomach twisted at the sight, Jungkook's hands shaking, his breath uneven, his thumb hovering over the dial button. The call rang. No answer. Again, no answer. Taehyung's chest tightened. He didn't understand Mr. Jeon's words in Korean, but he understood one thing. Jungkook had just lost his role in his own company. Slowly, Tae stepped forward, his movements careful. He reached out, gently taking Jungkook's phone from his trembling grip. Jungkook didn't fight it. He just looked at Tae. No words. No anger. No tears. But then Tae felt it. The damp warmth against his chest. Jungkook, still silent, his head pressed against Tae's frame, his body barely holding together the weight of his devastation. Taehyung's own eyes burned. He held him tighter, hands soothing along his back, grip firm like if he held on tight enough, he could somehow shield Jungkook from this pain. But he couldn't. And it tore at him. I failed you, Rue, Tae whispered, his voice hoarse. I couldn't even pull off the Titan deal. Jungkook barely stirred. Then came the cracked whisper. No one told me about it, Tae-ni. Minji, she could have told me. Taehyung swallowed, nodding, holding Jungkook closer. Rue, my baby, his voice faltered, his throat closing. He didn't know what to say. Because this loss, this betrayal was something that wouldn't have affected him. Losing a role in his own family's empire wasn't something Tae would have cared about. But for Jungkook, for someone who had fought for it, for someone who had built his existence on it, it was everything. Rue, Jungkook sensed it, Tae's struggle, his inability to console him, to patch up something that had already torn beyond repair. He pulled away. A smile curled onto his lips, fake. It's okay, Tae-ni, I'm okay. His voice was lighter now, forced, unnatural. Just, she could have told me, yeah, that's all. Taehyung's stomach twisted. Jungkook's steps were slow, measured, as he walked toward his room. The door shut. Taehyung stood frozen, his breath shallow, his pulse erratic, his body screaming that he had failed. A sharp inhale. Then, frick, Tae's voice cracked. His fingers gripped his hair, pulling slightly, trying to shake off the helplessness pressing down on him. He muttered under his breath, barely audible, words meant for no one but himself. Rue, I wish I could pull off the Titan deal for you, babe. I'd bring everything to your feet if it were in my hands. He exhaled sharply, aching. The TV still played, Jeon's face flashing repeatedly on the screen, his cold expression fueling Tae's frustration. Taehyung clenched his jaw. He couldn't stand to look at it anymore. He grabbed the remote and turned it off, the silence that followed almost deafening. His fingers raked through his hair again, heart hammering, his mind replaying Jungkook's last words. She could have told me. The weight of those words settled deep, a hurt beyond anything he could fix. And Tae hated it. Taehyung's office. Taehyung sat stiffly in his chair, his fingers pressed against his temples as he stared at the investment reports. The deal Titan Motors slipped right through his hands. How did this happen? His voice was controlled, but the undertone of sharpness was undeniable. The head of the investment team hesitated before answering, choosing his words carefully. Titan Motors opted for a different partnership, sir. After reviewing market projections, I don't need rehearsed excuses, Tay snapped, his patience snapping at the edges. I need answers. What exactly did they find lacking in us? Silence stretched thin in the room, and the tension was palpable. The team head swallowed, eyes darting to Sierra, who stood at a distance, watching Tay with an unease she had never felt before. This was different. This wasn't the calculated CEO she was used to. This was a man barely holding his fury together. The team head cleared his throat. Sir, if you leave, Tay's voice cut through the air, sharp and final. The team didn't hesitate. They withdrew from the cabin one by one, the door shutting behind them, leaving only Sierra behind. Tay exhaled harshly, his hands curling into fists against the desk. His mind spiraled, the weight of failure pressing against his chest. This deal wasn't just about any deal. It was for Jungkook, and he had failed. His fingers tightened around his phone as he dialed the number. It rang. Then a cold, familiar voice answered. Taehyung Nathaniel. Mr. Jeon's voice was slow, deliberate. To what do I owe the pleasure? Tae didn't waste time. How dare you? He bit out. How dare you do this to Jungkook? He is your son. A pause. Then the reply, calm, calculated, cruel. Is that so, Taehyung? A scoff. Isn't he your lover boy, your possession? That's what he said when he left here. Tae's grip on the phone tightened. It's not a crime to love. Mr. Jeon cut him off, his voice dropping. You want him successful, then give him back. Taehyung stilled. Give my son back, Mr. Jeon repeated, his tone chilling. Erase the memory of you from his life, and I will accept him. Only then will I take him back. The words struck hard, slicing deeper than Tae expected. Now, Mr. Jeon continued, unimpressed, unaffected, end this call, and don't ever call me again. The line went dead. Tae barely registered the sound of the disconnection before rage overtook him. His hand moved before he could stop it. The phone crashed against the wall with a sharp thud. Sierra flinched, her breath catching in her throat. Tae pushed back from his chair, rising abruptly, pacing like a storm contained within the four walls of his office. He ran a hand through his hair, breathing heavy, the frustration clawing at his ribs. Sierra hesitated then. For the first time, she found the courage to speak. Sir, would you tell me what happened? Tae stopped. He turned, eyes locking with hers, and she saw them. Tears, raw, unchecked. The great Taehyung Nathaniel, composed, powerful, untouchable, shattered. And all because of one man. That one precious man he couldn't afford to lose. Taehyung walked to the couch, his movements slow, heavy with frustration. He sank into the seat, his elbows resting on his knees, eyes locked on the floor. Sierra, watching him closely, quietly fetched a glass of water, handing it to him. He took a sip barely before setting it aside, his mind elsewhere. Then, his voice cut through the silence. Sierra, who got the Titan deal? She hesitated for a second before quickly checking the reports, scrolling through the latest updates. Her fingers moved swiftly over the screen until she found the name. She inhaled. It went to K1 Technologies, under Titan Motorsports. Taehyung leaned back against the couch, exhaling sharply. Sierra watched him, sensing the storm brewing beneath his composed exterior. Then, softly, almost hesitantly, she spoke. Sir. Taehyung's gaze lifted, locking onto hers. Seconds stretched between them. She held his stare, waiting, expecting him to say something. And he did. Sierra, this deal, it wasn't just business. His voice was lower now, edged with something raw. It was for my Ru. She blinked, absorbing his words. Taehyung continued, his voice steady but laced with emotion. Do you know who my Ru is? Sierra shook her head. Taehyung exhaled, his fingers pressing against his temple. He is Jeon Group's only son, the one who was supposed to inherit his father's empire. He's an automotive designer, brilliant, proven, deserving. Sira listened, her expression unreadable. And then, Taehyung's voice faltered for a fraction of a second before he steadied himself. Then Taehyung, Nathaniel happened. The love he felt for me, it cost him everything. Sira's breath hitched slightly. I want this deal, Sira. His voice was firmer now, resolute. I can't let this go. I want my Rue, and I want to give him back what he lost because of me. Silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken emotions. Taehyung sat there, fingers pinching his temple, his mind racing, while Sira stood beside him, deep in thought. She had never seen him like this, not this vulnerable, not this desperate, and for the first time, she understood this wasn't just about business. This was about him, about Jungkook. The intercom buzzed. Sira, standing by Taehyung's desk, answered swiftly. Sir, it's Reginald Nathaniel. Taehyung straightened, his fingers tightening slightly before he reached for the call button. Grandfather. There was no warmth in his voice. Reginald wasted no time. Taehyung, how's Jungkook? The question barely registered before Reginald continued, his tone cool, calculated. His father was clear about this from the beginning, wasn't he? A pause. There was never an option for him to hold both the company and you, and now, the decision has been made, it's out of our hands. Taehyung clenched his jaw, his grip tightening around the edge of the desk. Reginald sighed. Your selfishness to have him in your life shouldn't stop him, Taehyung. If he wishes to return to his country, to his father, shouldn't he be allowed to do so without restraint? Taehyung remained silent. Reginald's voice deepened, firm but eerily steady. Love cannot ruin the future. It's not fair. The decision is yours and his. The call disconnected. Sira stood frozen, having heard every word. Her chest tightened. She felt something close to ache. Taehyung exhaled slowly, his shoulders stiff. Leave me alone, Sira. She hesitated only for a fraction of a second before nodding, stepping back and walking out of the cabin, the weight of the conversation pressing against her. In the evening, Taehyung drove, his grip firm on the steering wheel, his usual easy charm nowhere in sight. Beside him, Sira said in quiet observation, she had worked with CEOs long enough to recognize the weight of a shift like this, a loss that wasn't just business but personal. Minutes passed before Tae finally spoke, his voice steady yet layered with restrained frustration. Sira, you've worked alongside top executives, seen high-stakes deals slip through and get recovered. You must have witnessed situations like this unfold. She nodded, eyes sharp, sensing where this was heading. Taehyung exhaled, fingers tapping absently against the wheel. I don't like losing, Sira, especially when my heart is involved. His jaw tightened briefly before he continued, more focused now. Titan is slipping, but what happens before they fully lock into operations? Tell me, my dear secretary, is there any leverage we can work before they solidify? Sira considered his words carefully, hands folded in her lap. Sir, deals at this level don't just disappear overnight. Titan's contract with K1 might be signed, but operations take time to integrate. If we move fast, there are pressure points we can work with. Taehyung gave a single nod, eyes still on the road, but his mind was already racing through possible openings. Pressure points? Yes, Titan still needs transition approval, supply chain alignment, regulatory compliance, investor confidence. It's not just about who signed the contract, but how smoothly they execute it. If we make the right moves, we could present an alternative strong enough for Titan to reconsider the switch. Taehyung hummed, thoughtful, but his eyes sharpened, narrowing slightly as a more strategic, ruthless thought surfaced. Even if Nathaniel Corporation has that chance, wouldn't they need something solid against K1? Something that would compel Titan to reconsider their decision and actively look at other options? Sira turned slightly, reading his expression, the shift in his tone, the weight behind his words. Tae had always been a Nathaniel, but now he was stepping into what that truly meant. He wasn't just reclaiming a deal, He was proving why the Nathaniels built empires. He was preparing to dismantle K1's grip altogether. Titan wouldn't pull back unless they feel K1 is a liability or… She hesitated briefly before finishing her thought. Or if public trust issues arise, if Nathaniel Corporation can demonstrate an edge, Titan might be willing to reassess. Taehyung leaned back, exhaling slowly, his fingers tightening slightly around the steering wheel. So, if K1 Tech stumbles even slightly, Titan would hesitate to commit fully? Sira met his gaze. Exactly. And if we have a counter offer ready before that hesitation turns into commitment, you might not have lost them yet. Tae let out a slow breath, his grip on the wheel shifting as a faint smirk curled onto his lips. Sira, remind me to double your salary if this works. She scoffed, shaking her head. That's funny, sir, but right now, you need to focus on strategy first, payment later. Sira lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, Taehyung's words echoing in her mind. I need this, Sira, for my Rue. She sighed, sitting up, fingers instinctively reaching for her laptop. There was something about K1 Technologies that felt off, something beneath the surface. She pulled up Victor Langford's profile, scanning his business history, his deals, his financial reports, but before she could fully analyze the numbers, a memory surfaced, a conversation from months ago. A former colleague, Leon Beek, a financial consultant, had once mentioned K1 Technologies while they worked on a different project. Their quarterly reports don't match their stock movements, something's off with their filings. At the time, she hadn't thought much of it, companies stretched numbers all the time, but now, with Titan's deal in play, it felt different. She grabbed her phone, dialing Leon without hesitation. Leon, I need you to confirm something for me. A pause, then a chuckle. You sound serious, Sira. What's going on? K1 Technologies, their reported revenue surge last quarter doesn't match independent market analysis. Leon hesitated before replying, his voice measured. Not exactly. There were whispers about irregular stock movements tied to executive trades. It's murky, but if someone looked closer, they might find proof. Her pulse quickened. This was it. A possible entry point to undermine K1's position with Titan. She grabbed her phone, dialing Taehyung without hesitation. Taehyung sat on the bed, his laptop balanced on his lap, fingers scrolling through Victor Langford's business records, eyes sharp with focus. Beside him, Jungkook lay curled against him, his head resting on Tae's thigh, fast asleep. Tae glanced down briefly, his fingers pausing over the keyboard. Jungkook's breathing was steady, peaceful, but something about it felt off. He had drifted off too quickly, too effortlessly. A soft crease formed between Tae's brows as he studied him, brushing away strands of hair that had fallen over Jungkook's face. His pulse was faintly quicker than normal, his body unusually lax. Tae exhaled, shaking his head slightly. What was it this time? Then his phone vibrated. Sira, he answered immediately. Tell me. I found something, she said, voice urgent. K1 Technologies, there's a discrepancy in their financial reports. Their revenue figures don't match market data, and there's evidence of insider trading. Taehyung straightened, his grip tightening around his phone. His eyes flickered back to his laptop, scanning through the reports again. And there it was, the same pattern. His jaw clenched. Sira, forward everything to me now, he ordered. Already did, she confirmed. Tae wasted no time, pulling up his email, attaching the files, drafting a message to his financial department. Verify this immediately. I want confirmation of any fraudulent activity tied to K1 Technologies. I need answers on my desk first thing tomorrow morning. He hit send. His fingers hovered over the keyboard for a moment before glancing back at Jungkook, still peaceful, still unmoving. Rue, his voice was low, cautious. Breathing was steady, peaceful, but Tae noticed the way his body felt a little heavier than usual, the way his fingers twitched slightly in his sleep. A flicker of doubt crept in. Was his Rue okay? Had his father's move making Minji CEO hurt him that much? Tae exhaled slowly, running his hand lightly through Jungkook's hair, gaze thoughtful. But never once did he doubt Jungkook's heart. Not like his grandfather Reginald had warned him. Not like those who whispered that Jungkook would leave him for his CEO position instead. No, his Rue wouldn't want that. Jungkook wasn't built like them, and Tae knew that better than anyone. Taehyung needed to fix this mess. For Jungkook, for his sanity, for the peace he deserved. His fingers curled against Jungkook's wrist, holding him lightly, grounding him in the warmth of his own skin. He didn't say anything, just stayed there. Next morning, Taehyung adjusted his cufflinks, his mind already racing ahead to the day's agenda. Jungkook stirred slightly, still curled under the sheets, exhaustion evident in the way his body barely shifted. Tae exhaled, leaning down, pressing a gentle kiss against Jungkook's forehead. A soft hum escaped Jungkook as his eyes fluttered open, lazy and warm, watching Tae settle beside him. Without a word, Jungkook reached for Tae's wrist, fingers grazing over the cufflinks before carefully fixing them, securing them with steady precision. Tae let him, observing the way Jungkook's brows furrowed slightly, focus slipping in and out between sleep and effort. When Jungkook was done, Tae spoke. "Rue, you don't seem well." His voice was gentle, measured, searching. "Should we go to a doctor?" Jungkook paused, inhaling sharply, gaze lowering slightly before shaking his head. "I'm fine," he murmured, "just tired." Tae studied him, his own exhaustion settling somewhere deeper. "You sure?" His thumb brushed over Jungkook's knuckles, testing for hesitation. Jungkook nodded, but Tae didn't miss the second-long pause before it. A silence stretched between them, weighty, then Tae's tone shifted. "I called your father." Jungkook blinked, his hold on Tae's wrist loosening slightly. Tae continued, voice even but laced with something sharper. "He told me to give you back after erasing my memory from your mind." A slow inhale, Jungkook's fingers curled against the sheets. Tae stood, exhaling, adjusting his blazer. "I stayed out of the corporate wars, the politics, kept my distance." He straightened, his presence shifting steadier, sharper, carrying an edge that hadn't been there before. "But that's over now, Rue. I'm stepping in." He turned to Jungkook then, eyes burning with an unfamiliar fire. "I understand the game now, and I know how to play it." Jungkook sat motionless, watching him, something unreadable flickering through his gaze. This wasn't the Taehyung he had met. This was someone on the verge of conquering something bigger than himself. "I'll fix everything, Rue." Tae's voice was firm now, decisive. Jungkook sat up, inhaling sharply. "Tae," he hesitated before continuing, words careful, "I'm not behind any position. If I was, would I have left everything behind and come here?" Tae's smile was subtle. "I know," he murmured, exhaling softly. His gaze didn't waver. "I know, Rue." A moment passed. Then Tae reached out, his fingers tilting Jungkook's chin upward, thumb tracing slow, deliberate strokes along his jawline. His voice was calm. "I have to go now, Rue. There's something I need to take care." Jungkook nodded, watching him, eyes still searching for something unchanged in Tae. Tae sighed, fingers lingering against Jungkook's skin. "Let's see if we can step out for dinner tonight, Rue. I want some time with you." Jungkook nodded again, slower this time. Tae stepped back, grabbing his coat, moving toward the door. "I'll send some house help, Rue," he called over his shoulder. "No need to stress over housework. I want my boy rested, completely fit and fine by tonight." And then he was gone. Jungkook exhaled, sinking back into the pillows, still processing the shift in Tae, the weight in his words, the sharpness in his stance. Something had changed, and it was only just beginning. Taehyung sat at his desk, fingers steepled, listening as his financial team laid out the findings. "There are discrepancies in K1 Technologies' financial reports," one of them stated. "We've traced inconsistencies, but there is no substantial evidence to confirm fraud." "There have been rumors," another added, "but nothing concrete enough to challenge their credibility." Taehyung exhaled sharply, leaning back in his chair. "You can leave." The team exited the room one by one. He remained still, eyes dark with frustration, tapping his fingers against the desk. This wasn't enough. Then Sira spoke. Sir, use this opportunity. Taehyung sighed, rubbing his temple. Sira, we need solid evidence, not speculation. She nodded, thoughtful, then. I have a plan. Taehyung lifted his gaze, waiting. There's an upcoming event at Victor's estate, private exclusive. Victor Langford and his top personnel from K1 Technologies will be there. Taehyung narrowed his eyes slightly, listening. Sira stepped forward, voice steady, calculated. This event isn't just another corporate gathering, sir, she explained. Victor knows how to keep his key personnel satisfied. It's a night designed to please them, exclusive entertainment, private arrangements, even their girlfriends will be there. Taehyung's fingers drummed against the desk, listening. Sira continued. The real advantage? No cameras, no footage. That's how Victor protects reputations, ensures nothing leaks that could tarnish K1 or its executives. Phones are strictly prohibited, meaning less distractions and more opportunity for us to move unnoticed. She leaned in slightly. That's why it's the perfect moment, sir. No records, no surveillance, just the right amount of chaos to slip in and get what we need. Victor rarely lets his guard down in corporate settings, but in private, that's different. She stepped forward, measured. I can get close to him, draw him into conversation, move him away from his office long enough for you to get in. If we play this right, he won't suspect a thing. Taehyung's fingers drummed against the desk, considering her words. And while he's distracted, Sira pressed, you'll have access to his office. Taehyung hummed, thoughtful. You expect me to just waltz in? Sira's lips curled slightly. Not exactly. You'll have an insider, someone willing to cooperate for the right price. She paused, letting the weight of her words settle. K1 has its weak links. We just need one. Taehyung exhaled sharply, shaking his head, skepticism flickering across his expression. You're really willing to take this risk? His voice was low, edged with warning. Victor's reputation isn't clean. Getting too close to him isn't just reckless, it's unpredictable. She met his gaze steadily. I know, sir, but I can handle him and I trust you with my safety. Taehyung's expression darkened. No, Sira, this isn't happening. I can't put you in this. Sira didn't flinch, her stance unwavering. Sir, listen to me. We aren't doing anything illegal, we're exposing the truth, and if we don't act now, Titan Motors will seal their partnership with a fraudulent company. Taehyung clenched his jaw, exhaling sharply. There has to be another way. Sira tilted her head slightly. Then tell me, sir, how else do we get undeniable proof before Titan finalizes the deal? Silence. Taehyung shifted in his seat, irritation flickering in his gaze. Sira stepped forward, voice calm but pressing now. You need this, sir. You said it yourself, this isn't just about Titan, it's about Jungkook. Taehyung's breath hitched slightly at the mention of his name. Sira noticed and pressed on. K1E's collapse would force Titan to look for a stronger alternative. That alternative is Nathaniel Corporation, and once the deal is ours, Jungkook will lead the operation. She paused, letting the weight of her words settle. You said how capable he is, sir. Taehyung swallowed, his thoughts colliding. She wasn't wrong, but the risk, Sira. Sir, she whispered, waiting for the shift, waiting for the decision. His eyes flickered to hers, searching, and finally he nodded. Let's do it. A slow, knowing smile spread across Sira's lips. This was their move, and it had to count.